Hi everyone, I'm here to tell you a little bit more about another experience I had being a TV extra actor, or background actor as they call it. So I was in two scenes for APB, and we filmed them both on the same day out at Navy Pier, and they did wind up in the same episode. But you never know if you're going to be in it or if just part of your body's going to be in it. So the interesting thing is they had us in a really nice holding area this time. We weren't crammed into a little room. We were in a big room that they set it up with like tables that could fit like around 10 people on two sides, and one side was sunny and one side was the north side, so that was cooler. So I actually started out on the sunny side, and it was the first week in November, and then I got a little warm and I went to the other side. So yeah, it was really nice, and we could change, and there were two women's restrooms and two men's restrooms right there, and so that was really great. Now so in the first scene we did, it actually aired later in the episode. We were in a restaurant that's on Navy Pier that I've been to before. It's been a while since I've been there, but it was a beautiful sunny day. They lifted the blinds on the south windows, but then outside they had this guy on a movable, I guess they'd call it some kind of a crane, and then they had this huge piece of white fabric to block the sun so it wasn't too sunny. So it was like this gigantic umbrella, and they could move it up and down and left and right just to get it to the right spot. So that was kind of neat. So I did get seated at the table next to the actors who were just in this episode, and then the regular actors came in. They were the police officers. But when it came to see the scene, and I'm going to pop a screenshot in, only my right shoulder and the back of my head was shown. There were three of us at a table of four. So that was interesting. It's like, hey, these people were blocking my view. So you never know, as they move the cameras and do the scene several times, you never know if you're going to be in or not. And I did have food. I was served a crab cake, and I did eat it. But the weirdest thing was, at one of the takes, and we're supposed to be moving because they tell the background actors start moving before they yell action. I picked up my water glass, I took a sip of water, and I went to put it down. He had already called action, and I could feel that the water went down the wrong pipe. I was like, oh my gosh. I actually held my breath, and one of the guys at my table, he told me he thought I was suppressing a laugh. And as soon as they yelled cut, I started coughing. Oh my goodness, it was awful. So, you know, I don't want them to have to ruin a scene just because I'm coughing. So that stuff happened. So that was interesting. But one of the times they moved the cameras, they needed the spot where a table was. So they had us go in the back. And even when the cameras are at a certain point, you can't see all the people who are sitting in the room to the east, waiting to be called. So one of the assistant directors, who knew I sat at that table, he called over another woman and me, and we walked into the hallway as if we were waiting for a table, and handed us a fake glass of wine. It was actually cranberry juice. And later, when we were back at the table, the main director said, oh, we need the two women in the background again. And I raised my hand. I'm like, that was me. He's like, oh. Because it can't be in two places at once. So I'm the blonde woman with a green sweater in two places at one time. So maybe that's why they wouldn't show me at the table, because it'd be a little goofy. But I did get a screenshot of me standing in the background, holding a wine glass. I know that's me. I know it's kind of dark, but I know that's me standing there. Then the other interesting thing that happened is that when we did the outdoor scene later, I was looking for a place to sit. There were some, there were a lot of park benches surrounding the lake, the edge of the wall where the lake was, and they were all taken. Like, there were two people at every one, and I thought, oh, I need to sit down. I need to get my old lady feet up. But every seat was taken. Then finally, about a minute later, somebody got up and walked away from one of the benches. So I went over, and as I went to sit down, I said to the guy, can I sit here? And the other guy said, yeah, sure. So he was a guy who I saw when I was standing with the fake glass of wine in one of the scenes. And the interesting thing is, usually when younger people are on these sets and especially when the scene is in progress, they won't look at other people. They're so afraid of looking at the camera, they look down at the ground and, you know, anywhere else. And they won't look at other actors like you normally would. You know, a waiter in a restaurant will look at a customer and smile or something. And this particular guy, he looked me in the eye. So I found a shot where I think this is his back. So I've actually texted him to say, hey, is this you? And he hasn't seen the show yet as I'm creating this video. So anyway, I ended up sitting next to him outside and we got to talking. And then the assistant director came by and he was telling different extras what to do. And we were pretty far from where the actors were going to be. And when he came to us, he just told us to stay sitting at that park bench. I was like, great, you know, if we don't have to walk around, wonderful. And it was getting cooler. So this was a beautiful November day. It was unusually warm, but we were on the lake. Okay, so it was starting to get cool. And on the north side of the lake, no less. So the sun was going to be going behind a building. But I just got talking to this guy, and he was willing to talk to a middle-aged woman, which was interesting. And he was personable. And I always want to know for younger people, like, why are they doing this work? You know, are they trying to get into acting, or, you know, what's the deal? Are they between jobs? Well, he was between jobs. And I asked him what his background was. He had 2 master's degrees in sustainability. Well, what do I know about sustainability? Not much. And you work on buildings and that kind of thing. But he was so personable, and I've done so much work in the field of helping people get jobs and learning about job hunting and learning a lot about other people when someone's job hunting, especially if they don't have a job. So the thing is, I know how to do it, but I know what I'm looking for, because no one's going to refer somebody, especially someone they just met, if they think that person's going to embarrass them. And I didn't think he would. And suddenly a name came to my mind of someone who rubs shoulders with people in the sustainability field. And I said, you know what? I'll ask her to have a conversation with you. But specifically, I'd like her to introduce you to some people she knows through this other organization. And the other interesting thing is, while we were out there, like I said, we were so far from the actors and so far from the microphone, they couldn't hear us talking. And we could talk in a normal voice the whole time. So we had this opportunity to meet and connect, and I thought, I can help this guy as long as the person I'm referring him to is willing to talk to him. So it really was one of my proudest moments, because I sent the email that night. I kept him informed of what was going on, and by the time she was able to get back to me from a Monday, that was a Thursday when she replied, they had their phone call on Friday morning, and from Monday to Friday. So he called me Friday afternoon. He said, listen to this. She's talking to me about working for her organization. And a few weeks later, she hired him. So she called me the week of Thanksgiving and said, thank you so much for referring me to David and introducing me. He's just great. This is what we're looking for. And her organization does do some sustainability, but it's a foot in the door, and it's a very flexible job, because he doesn't live near the company office. I think he said recently he goes there about once a week, and she'll come into the city, but it's totally flexible and he can work remotely. And, you know, I got him off the Obamacare credit. It turns out he's over 26, and, you know, I'm just really happy. So he's not doing TV extra work anymore. So the picture of us that I could find, I believe it's this one, and we're so blurry, but there weren't many people sitting on the park benches. Mostly people were walking. So like I said, we got to sit there the whole time. So again, what does it matter what we were wearing? You know, the wardrobe people went through the same thing as they always do. It mattered more what we were wearing in the restaurant. But outside, they were going on and on about the sweaters. Well, then I put a coat on over my sweater. And I put the liner in the coat, even though it was supposed to be in the 60s. I knew we were going to be by the lake, and I had gloves in my pocket. And later in the afternoon, I was taking my gloves out. And there were some young women there who were wearing leggings, who were very cold. So I said in another video about being a TV extra person, about working with the wardrobe people. So you know, they're probably under some pressure to put people in clothing that looks good, but if the people can't be seen because they're so far away, they're blurry, whatever, then what does it matter? You need to be comfortable. If it's cold out, if it's hot out, whatever, you need to be comfortable. You're going to be walking versus sitting. So it's really important to treat them with respect, but be wise. Because otherwise you're going to go home realizing that you could have brought some other shoes. You could have brought, you know, because nobody saw your shoes. All right. So this is really interesting. Now, the other thing is, so we got there about, I think our call time was about 9 o'clock in the morning. I brought food. They had some breakfast burritos, but they were cold if we wanted to eat that. But so we did the restaurant scene. By the time we were done with the restaurant scene, because they were opening for lunch, it was about 11 o'clock. So then we went and changed. And then by the time we were outside, it was around noon or 12:30. But yeah, I was eating. And then they finally let us go to the craft services that the production crew had already been through, because they still weren't serving us lunch. And the craft services actually had sloppy joes, among other things. So they had ground beef sloppy joes, ground turkey sloppy joes, and a vegetarian sloppy joe. So we were eating that around 3:30. And then at 4:30, they brought us back in the holding room and they said, well, you know what? You can go. We're done. Or if you want to stay for lunch, that's going to be served in about 15 minutes. Well, by then, this time it was 4:30, so I'm going home. So a lot of times this happens where they're serving lunch and it's more like dinner because production and the main actors ate earlier. So you end up not getting fed. And sadly, like I said, this happens quite often. And again, it's too bad because the food is usually pretty good. So this is my story of two scenes I did that were one episode, but it was my proudest moment, not because I got seen, but because I helped somebody get a job in his field. And from the date I met him, November 7th, to the date he started his job, December 1st, was like, what, 3 weeks? I mean, it was amazing. And I was just so glad to meet somebody and help them in that way. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and give me a thumbs up. If you want, you can watch some of my other videos by clicking one of the images on the right side of your screen, or click the little eye in the upper right hand corner. It even works on mobile. Bye.